Thank you, Justin. Thank you for... Yeah. Slides. Okay. Hi, everyone. Yes, this is Flock to Fedora in Prague. Also, Flock to Fedora in Prague. There, yeah. Yeah. This was a panel discussion. Everyone is off screen here, and we didn't have very many photographs of it, so this is a clip from a video. But there it is. I'm wearing the same shirt. It's gotten a little bit, I don't know, it's tighter somehow. I'm not sure how that happened. A little bit, yeah, a little faded, but yeah. So this was not my first time speaking at a Fedora conference, but it was my first time as the FPL, and we did not plan this, but it turned out nicely. That was 1 decade, 1 year, and 1 day ago that I became, not when I was talking here, but when I came the FPL. So that's 11 years. It's been a pretty exciting time. I think in all that time, one thing has been constant. Fedora is awesome. It's been awesome as a project for so many years, and all of you here are really to thank for that, and so many other people. It's very tempting to spend the next little bit of time on nostalgia, and I'm going to a little bit, or like an Academy Award, like thanking 10,000 people one after another. I won't do that. Could also do like an hour of nerdy charts and graphs. Very tempting, but I'm gonna compress things a little bit. I just talk for a few more minutes here, then we'll hand things over to Jef. In that first talk, I talked a lot about the blessing of the FPL. This is a badge we have, which it looks a little more pointy than it's not that painful. This is a badge that the FPL can give out to people in a little, like, here's a gift from the FPL. But as I was reflecting on that back then, and I still believe it, being the FPL is the blessing, and this badge is very awkward because it's kind of a job where it's really a privilege to be in a position where you can spend your whole time trying to help everybody make Fedora be as amazing as it is. I still have the power to give this out, and there are probably plenty of people I haven't given it to. If you know somebody who should get this who doesn't have it, come whisper it to me during the conference, and I'll make sure that that happens as a last giveaway of things. Yeah. Previous yeah. Well, there is a yeah. I don't know. So you can get more than one. Yeah. I don't know. Well, we may figure that out. We'll have to give some sort of Jef PL badge of some sort. But yeah, so any list of thanks is gonna be incomplete. I am gonna name a few people today. I'm sure that I'm gonna leave so many people out, but in any sort of list, people without whom I wouldn't be here, Fedora wouldn't be like it is. These are people. There are people here who've been really important to me, who I'm not going to name, so don't feel left out. But first, I want to Seth Vidal, who was involved in Fedora very early and worked at another university, really helped me understand the value of community and how making things together, it was worth the extra effort to share. Seth was taken from us way too young. Before I became the FPL, but I remember when I was making the decision, is this something I want to do? And I spent a lot of time talking to him about that, and I miss him a lot. Second, Robin Bergeron, who was my predecessor in this role. She was amazing. She is amazing. She spent a lot of time setting up things so that I wouldn't get burned to a crisp in the role, and I think we can see from the 11 years that she did a good job of setting it up so it could be a long time success. And then there have been a lot of people in those support roles that she helped set up, program manager and the FCAKE or FCA role. Thanks to everybody in that, but particularly to Ben Cotton and Marie Norden, who were during COVID kind of my little, my work best friend club, good time Fedora thing, and I really appreciate everything they did. And again, so many of the rest of you, I appreciate it personally, and then also just everything that you've done for Fedora to make Fedora awesome. It's been so good. tiny bit of nostalgia. This is the Fedora Linux 21 wallpaper. It's kind of gloomy. I mean, it's all right. I think we were kind of coming out of what was like brooding, dark, angsty teenager times and this kind of reflects that a little bit. I did a whole nother talk, which was going through all the nostalgia of the first 35 releases. I'll probably do that talk again because it was fun to give. It's also online. I recommend it if you want more nostalgia. Here we are now in, I don't know, I think this, I love this wallpaper. I think it is friendly and inviting and kind of has a little bit of a whimsy to it. Plus we've got our Hitchhiker's Guide references embedded there. If you can't find them, we'll talk about them later. But I really like how welcoming and friendly and just peaceful this is, and I think this kind of reflects the spirit of Fedora in a really good way. I found it funny that people on Reddit were angry about this wallpaper. I don't know, friendliness, maybe not a Reddit virtue, yeah, don't like fun. I do, and I'm really proud of our designers. Madeline worked on this. It's awesome. Yeah, but here we are now. Also in nostalgia, when I started as the Fedora project leader, these are my children, and now they've become whole grown-ups in the time that I have been in this job, which is amazing. And actually I want to thank Red Hat because I feel like this has been a very intense job, but I haven't felt like I've missed out on my kids growing up. I've had the time to be with them. In fact, partly the reason I'm very jet lagged right now is Anya's graduation was on Monday, so I went to that and then got on a plane the next day, and then here I am. I don't know how it's Thursday somehow now. I don't know what, but yeah. I am going to put one chart in here. This is growth in user release check-ins. Nice to see continuing going up. One of the things I'm looking forward to doing is having a little more time to spend time on like just nerding out on very specific deep things, because in this job there's not really much time to go deep because there's always some other thing that needs attention. So I'm looking forward to doing next time at Flock a whole hour on nerdy Fedora statistics and graphs. It's going to be awesome. I'm also stepping into a new role at Red Hat. I'm going to be a manager in the community Linux engineering team, where a lot of the people who work on Fedora infrastructure and quality and design are there. Aoife's still going to be reporting to me because Aoife is awesome, and that's be fun. And then a lot of the quality team as well. So I see some of you here. I know I haven't talked to you about it yet, but we'll talk while I'm here. And also, I'm going to be hiring for another role in Fedora quality. So if you're interested in that, come talk to me, or if you know someone who would be good, that's going to be fun as well. But now, with that, I think it is time to hand things on. And this is the FPL badge, which has a sword. I think it's in some ways being the FPL is more kind of a blunt instrument. It's more of a bonking thing than a sword. So we have this awesome device here. And Jef, come on up. We don't do this very often, so we don't really have a formal ceremony. But I don't know. You can see Jef might not be one for formal ceremonies so much. This is formal wear. All right. We do have the former FPLs from Michael, Gafton, Greg, everybody here, and I'm not handing it to you yet. I'm looking at it. I think I do have to knight. Oh. Yeah. There you go. And now here you go. FPL Jef. So, in seriousness, you don't really get many powers as the FPL. You can't bonk people with things, but what you do get, it is good, yeah. Jef, I think you're going to be awesome in this job. I've seen you getting up to speed here. It's going to be really exciting, and it's nice to hand this off in a way that I feel really good about the future of Fedora leadership. The one other thing you really do get is a microphone. So,
not yet.
Not yet?
No, I want to take this off before I.
Oh, okay. Well.
I want to. This is fun.
Okay, we're gonna watch. Okay. Now I have to ad lib.
A little dancing music, please.
Not for me. Sorry. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the one thing you really do get is a microphone. You get to be able to be the voice of the community. I know you're very good at listening. Let's hear you talk.
Hey, everybody. How does this work? There we go. So sitting here this morning as people were filing in, and I mentioned to Matthew sort of jokingly, what have I gotten myself into? But hopefully after seeing me show up in a hot dog costume, you're all asking the same thing about me. So, but I probably would wear the hot dog costume all day because it's fun. But I wanted you to take this seriously. I don't want to sort of short sell the fact that I am very grateful to be here, and this is a serious thing for me. Fedora was where I cut my teeth on how open source is supposed to be done. I'll talk about that in a second. But I love whimsy, but I don't want to give you the impression that that's all I'm about. So I wanted to make sure I took the hot dog suit off, and more importantly, you can see my curling pride shirt, which is also very important to me. So here we go. Hi, I'm Jeff. You may remember me from such roles as, I got started really as open source community way back. Do you remember the Zimian desktop? I was there in the ERC channel helping people. I was a user, and that got me stuck into contributing. Why do I say contributing? It's weird. But then from there, I moved over to the Fedora US repository, and I was helping out there, doing some minor packaging work. It's so long ago, it's hard to remember what I was doing exactly. But I was there when the decision was made to sunset Red Hat Linux and sort of combined with the external Fedora US repo when they agreed, whatever was done, when Warren agreed to basically give up control and make it the genesis of what is now this project. And then from then I was mailing lists and IRC. You may remember me talking about licensing a lot at some point, if you remember me at all. But I ended up eventually being on the Fedora board at one point before I sort of rolled off as a contributor. This should be a pretty familiar origin story for anyone who's watched popular primetime cartoons. I was, not a pizza delivery boy. I was actually a graduate student in the 20th century. And I wasn't accidentally frozen. I chose to go to Alaska. I thawed out 2 decades later and became the unexpected important figure of Fedora's fate. So, but like I said, it should be familiar to a lot of people in this room. So Alaska. I went to Alaska for 18 years. They do pay you to live there, just like the Simpsons movie says. I will miss the check from the state. But I'm not there anymore. So why did I go? So as a graduate student, I was actually studying fusion energy back in New Jersey as a graduate student. I'm actually in that picture down the lower left. I'm the one on the floor. I will always seem to be the one on the floor in pictures for some reason. I don't know why. But something about photography framing, I think. I've sort of rule of three, the thirds. It was plasma physics. I ended up going to Alaska to study the aurora using radar systems. I've actually done experiments using HARP. If anyone knows HARP, I actually got to operate the space physics or the atmospheric heater. It's fantastic. It ran RHEL. But my main job was I was actually helping to build SuperDarn radars and extend the network as a postdoc, which is a really cool gig. And I did that for about 7 or 8 years. And when I say Alaska, I actually mean Antarctica. For part of that job, I had to build a couple of radars down on the ice, one in McMurdo, and then I actually got to go to the South Pole for a couple of years. It was the first 3 days are always fun. That's a real recycling container down there. They had a series of them, and one of them was the Dreams container. And on the list is like your graduate thesis. So there may be a copy of my dissertation in that bin. I didn't want to put all the pictures, but yeah, the first 3 days, always fun. The fifth week never is. On my first jump down to the ice, we were building the radar, and it was on the books, slated to be like a 2.5-week trip. I ended up spending 5 weeks there. That's a picture of me at 30 feet up in a bucket, like a lineman bucket truck. We were doing the rigging for the radar on the fifth week. It was like a 20-hour day that day for me because we were pushing to get it done because they were now telling us we had to get off the ice. It was almost the end of the summer season. So they were trying to get all the researchers, the beakers, off the ice. And that was not a fun day. So over like a course of those first 6 years in Alaska, first 7 or 8 years in Alaska, I helped build, maintain, or modernize 10 Super Darn radars. And these are interesting instruments because we were actually using World War II over-the-horizon sort of shortwave radio radar technology to do science. What was noise during World War II was actually our science. We were scattering off the aurora. And it became an international collaboration because you need 2 of these radars to get the velocity vector. So we would have some in Alaska, we'd have some in Canada. I think we had a couple of collaborators in Russia, a couple in Europe, but then we also had the southern hemisphere. So we had South Africans, some Australians, and we added the Antarctic ones. We were extending the range. The radar network extended both towards the poles and towards the equator. Some of the radars I built during that tenure were Kansas, ADAC, Oregon, adding more coverage so we could see more of the plasma physics that was driving all of the ionospheric activity. So it was an interesting gig, and it was unfortunately it was a lot of QNX because a decision was made before I joined the project to basically base the radar on QNX instead of Linux. But I think some of the student projects after me fixed that. But the point is, I ended up spending about 8 weeks a year literally off the grid. Like they say there's internet at Antarctica. There is no internet at Antarctica. They get like an hour of email of a day. So I had to step back from Fedora. Like up until the first couple of years in Alaska, I was still contributing. I was still making the virtual meetings. I think I even came all the way back to do a Southeast Linux Fest, and it was actually Robin that year was the FPL. So I missed Matthew entirely. I think I basically rolled off right before he became FPL. So, but I still found a way to do open source as part of my job. Like I said, I really learned how to do this in the Fedora community. And so when I was working on SuperDarn, I made it a point to find a way to build a community inside of that project because there was a lot of students who were doing work and basically working with IDL for their data analysis. And it made no sense to me because only about 10% of those students ended up going into research careers. They would have to get jobs elsewhere. So I actually helped make sure that as part of this modernization, we actually had a Python-based SDK for the data analysis and got some of the students involved because I know the students have time and no common sense, so they're willing to help out because I was also one of them. We actually got it's something I left behind to make sure that students could continue to collaborate and push things forward in a way that the primary investigators never will. The students always push things forward is what I found, and not the people who are basically writing the grants. So so I continued to make open source part of my job because I wanted to make sure things were openly developed that way. As the practitioners had a say in what was going on, and more importantly, they were building a skill set for their own careers. So, open source is great, but have any of you tried curling? So, the biggest thing in 18 years in Alaska, right? Literally, we were getting ready to move there, and my wife and I are like, what are we going to do in Alaska? And we happened literally 2 weeks in, we fell into a group of terrible influencers, some high school teachers who curled. So I ended up doing a lot of curling in 18 years. And by a lot, I mean, I did a lot of curling in 18 years. You will see costumes because costumes are a thing in the curling community for bonspiels. Like I said, I would wear that hot dog all day if I could. So this became sort of an identity for me, and you will continue to hear about curling because it is a deep part of my my person now. It was sort of, and I could go on and on about the parallels I've seen between open development and curling as a thing, but I will not do that here. What I will tell you is that we could be curling right now. There is a curling club in this city, and they are doing corporate events this week. I may have to see if there's an opportunity to do a Learn to Curl Saturday if anyone's interested. But not just right now, we could also be curling next week. Brno has a curling club, and more importantly, they have a Bonspiel January 16th and 18th, and I'm looking for a few brave souls and a good business reason to be back in the country roughly around 16th to 18th. So, and if you want to, I'm not saying bribe, it's not the right word, but if you want to influence my thinking as the FPL about any subject, if you happen to invite me to a Bonspiel in your area, you may get some more FaceTime with me. I'm just saying. Like I said, it's something, I have a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I'm trying very hard to build up a set of curling analogies to replace all the basketball and football analogies in American jingoism. So, back on track. What time? How much time do I have? Oh my gosh, 20 minutes. We're going to end up way early. I may have to do curling. I could sit on this slide for a second. So after I was an academic, I did that for about 8 years. I ended up leaving academia for a gloriously stupid reason. I made the mistake of talking to my cousin, and I helped him build a prototype for a wearable technology, and then he suckered me into working for him for 2 years. So the first thing I did after leaving academia, it was a company called Vert. It's still a thing. It's actually a big thing in Europe, I think. Got picked up by volleyball, especially women's volleyball, for injury prevention. That was a very interesting 2 years. Unfortunately, it was all proprietary, but I basically was a full stack developer. I did firmware for a wearable device all the way up through the iOS client that interacted with it with Bluetooth, all the way in the backend systems that basically were handling the team data, because it was a tiny company. I don't remember a lot. I do remember some long nights in Vegas, building demos for a CS convention. I remember being in a ESPN broadcast production truck a couple of years because we did the National Volleyball Championship collegiate, and we actually had women wearing the devices during the event, and they were trying to use it as data to pop up for the bug for like how high they were jumping. It was a cool run for 2 years, but after I told my cousin I'd give it 2 years, and I just didn't enjoy doing everything proprietary. There's no way to build community there, but it was a good technology. So after Vert, I worked for Sensu as a developer advocate, and this was my chance to really get back to building and sort of sustaining a read-write community. Sensu was an interesting monitoring company. There was an open core play, but they had an open source project base, and they had just done like a generational change from Ruby to Go as their platform when I joined. And I had a good 3-year run before we got acquired, and really got a chance to actually, my first time I was paid to do open source like community advocacy. The stuff I was doing as a contributor in Fedora partly, now I was getting paid as my day job, and it was fantastic. I loved that company, and then we got acquired, and I did not love that company. So I moved to Isovalent, primarily because when I was at Sensu doing monitoring, eBPF there's a lot of stuff around eBPF and observability, because that was the word that the CNCF people use instead of monitoring. And I just couldn't make it work in the model that Sensu as a piece of technology was designed to be. So I was really interested in it, and I got a chance to basically join a company that was basically all eBPF all the time. And if you're not familiar with eBPF, I legitimately think it's a core technology moving forward, especially for networking and observability. But it's basically makes your kernel programmable from user space, so it's wild. Like it almost makes it a microkernel. And I actually think it's a future for a lot of things, especially in the CNCF space, which is interesting for licensing reasons. But so I got to do that for a good year and a half before Isovalent got acquired. So, and I did not leave Isovalent because of the acquisition. I actually think Cisco is doing a good job with what they're doing there. I don't think they're, I think they're trying really hard to build a community or keep a community around that work. They want to figure out how to play in the space better. What I did leave because my wife started a new gig back in Virginia this year, and I was already planning on moving back east from Alaska when Matthew said he was stepping down, and it just happened to be perfect timing because when the other Fedora-related opportunities came up previously, there's no way I could have done what Aoife's doing from Alaska. There's no way. It's just too far away. But coming back east, it was the perfect time to basically throw my hat in and take a shot at it. And here I am. So, I basically took 2 months off to pack the house. I rolled into Virginia at the end of April and then started the job on May 1st. And it's been a whole month of just onboarding in terms of Red Hat internal stuff. I have been reading up on the community side, and I'm trying to one-on-one with as many people as I can. If I haven't gotten to you yet, please reach out if you want to have a discussion with me. The summit and this conference sort of makes it impossible to do for a couple of weeks, but hopefully right after this we'll have time. And I know some people have reached out, but if I haven't gotten back to you, find me here or ping me in Matrix, and I'll set up some one-on-one time with you. And I'm actually hoping to do that anyway from a project's perspective because of my last slide. No, not my last slide. Like, now what? So what I'm planning to do initially, and this is the new slide. For people who were in the release party, you've seen all this before, but this is the new slide. This is the one new thing. I haven't actually been putting any goals out because I've been sort of in an information gathering mode, but I think now's the time to sort of tell you what I'm thinking about, right? So I know the strategy 2028 is a big sort of large set of initiatives, and I'm personally coming up to speed on where things are with that, and I'm hoping sessions this week will help. But also, relatedly, but sort of my pet project for how I'm approaching coming in as a new FPL after 10 years of not having a new FPL, which is amazing. Since I saw so many of them in the early years basically come in and get burned out and go. I'm actually very interested in doing a project health assessment, primarily because, this is a generational project now. Like, and I say this with as much love as I can muster. If you remember me as a peer contributor, you're a potential risk now to the project, in that you probably have a set of institutional knowledge, or you're doing something important that we haven't figured out a way to mentor a group around you. And so if you do remember, and I'm not going to do a show of hands, if you do remember me, I would love to talk to you about how we make it so that you're mentoring new people into the things that you're doing. Because if you've been doing this, especially if you've been doing the same thing for 20 years now, you probably have a piece of institutional knowledge, or you're that, what's that graphic with the small one guy in Nebraska who keeps everything running for all of open source? You're probably that for Fedora, and that's not a good place for the project to be. So I want to look for those opportunities. Like it's great. Like I said, it's great that you are doing the work, but in some respects, the project has probably let you down, and that you're the only person doing that work, and we should probably try to solve that as moving forward with the larger strategy stuff. And I skipped a bullet point, but I want to get a sense of what's really working, what is sort of under stress and creaking, and what parts of the project have collapsed a bit, so we can have an idea. And I think that'll inform how I approach some of the strategy 2028 objectives, because it's about modernizing and figuring out what we're going to do next and attract people into. And at least for me, my contributor path was always, there has to be a problem to solve for me to be a helping hand. If everything's going well, there's less opportunity, and and I'm not saying everything's going well. I'm not saying things are on fire. But if we can highlight where the opportunities are, we can sort of figure out how we're going to attract the next generation of people to work on the things that we feel like need to be worked on. So that's where I'm thinking, and what I'm sort of going to focus on initially, unless you happen to find me at a curling club and you want to talk about something else, that's always an opportunity. So I think that's it for me. We have a ton of time. I guess I can open up to questions if people want questions. Or I can talk about curling strategy for 10 minutes too, that's fine. That was my threat, if there are no questions.
It's been a short time, but what things have you observed already that you want to comment on?
I mean, the meeting sort of yesterday was instructive. I'll repeat the question. I will repeat the question. So, given my short time, what have I observed that I want to comment on? And then I laughed, sort of, in a villain way. I think the meeting yesterday.
What meeting?
Oh, the meeting yesterday.
What meeting?
Oh, it was sort of a sync between council and FESCO. So sort of a sync meeting for project leadership. And I'm not seeing anything new that I didn't see at the beginning. I think the communication is always a problem, and I actually think for a lot of reasons things are probably in a better spot than they were for the first 8 years of the project. I mean, it's sort of I'm gonna be blunt. It's sort of a miracle this project continues, and because like, you know, my perspective, like, and I think I've said this in an interview summit too. When I joined, it was a completely external thing, right? It was a community add-on repo, and then when Red Hat sunsetted Red Hat Linux and said, hey, we're going to try to do our work in an open development process because that's what we're selling to our customers, that we are the experts at this, they were not good at communicating. And the way I look at it is, Red Hat, from my point of view, having worked at a couple of different companies now, Red Hat is uniquely bad at spin. And I actually like that because when the project started, when this project started, it was rough, but it was pretty, no one tried to spin it. Like, they were like, yes, this is rough, and we need to figure out how to do it. And I saw that communication, and even though they were not good at it, the intention was so different from my point of view. I'm like, okay, this is how we can actually influence, because at that point, corporate open source wasn't a thing, right? Like, Red Hat was sort of there, it was coming, and like, this is, from my point of view as an external, then like, this is how we can actually influence corporate culture in a way that makes it better for everybody. And so I bought in as an external because I wanted to help basically pull the future forward, right? Like, this isn't an easy task at all. And so I am excited by the fact that it's still an ongoing thing, because it feels like even though there's always a push and pull there, you know, it's working. I think this community still has the same fundamental nature 20 years ago than it did that we were trying to get to, right? Or the shape of it has evolved and the specifics have evolved, but it's not the same conversation, but it's similar conversations. It's not a new problem, it's just the next problem. And I don't think, especially communication, I don't think you can ever solve. Communication is never solved. You can only get iteratively better, and as people change, communication changes. So to answer the question concisely, I'm not I'm not dropping the mic and running away based on what I'm seeing. Like this is an iterative process that's working, and it's just more of a matter of just executing and working the problem space. So it feels good. Like I said, I'm not. People said condolences for the job. I'm like, it doesn't feel like condolences yet. Maybe in a month. But so that's my answer to that question. Oh, now there's a lot of questions. I said something wrong.
No, this is entirely separate. What gap in the world do you think Fedora is best suited to fill?
Best suited to fill?
That and not necessarily that it is now, but like what problem space, what big opportunity do you think that the Fedora project, not necessarily Fedora Linux, but the Fedora project is positioned best to serve? Or
Right.
should be positioned best to serve?
Should be, yeah. So I think the biggest problem in the ecosystem that I would like us to be part of the discussion and chart a way forward is definitely ethical AI use, especially around, what's the right licensing. Like, I'm very concerned that if we don't engage, if we don't try to do it the right way, and then we're going to lose a generation of people who are in college right now, and we haven't given them what I experienced 20 years ago when it was about just basic, what we now take for granted as licensing, right? Those licensing arguments, if something like the open source projects or the open source Linux projects in particular weren't trying to build an alternative, we would have a whole bunch of proprietary stuff, and we wouldn't have a counterpoint opinion for people, and I don't know if we would have won in like the way open source has won in terms of almost the full stack now, right? Except for honestly laptop clients, right? But now I'm super concerned that if we don't engage and try to use the technology in the right sustainable way, then there isn't a counterpoint argument, and the sort of the wrong AI models win. And I think we all lose. And if we just bury our heads in the sand and we don't try to stake it out and be like, this is how we can do this ethically, then we won't be part of the conversation. And I'm really afraid of the college students right now. Like that we're gonna not give them something that they can think about as a counter position to take for their own careers. So, does that make sense? Now, is Fedora the best position to do that right now? No. Should it be? I think it should be, but I don't know. I can't do it by myself. So, but that's my biggest concern.
One last question, I'd say, because it's 5 minutes left.
5 minutes left.
So who wants to?
I was first in the last round, but this round you were the first.
Oh, we can do both. We can do both.
Okay. Then
It's only coffee.
So maybe just a quick question. What things are we doing like we did it 2003 or 2004 when we started that we should put on the table and discuss to change again? Package ownership, release cycle. Is there anything you think that should change from back then?
I think the 2028 things that already sort of have initiatives are part of that. I'm going to bounce that question because there are things already. There's already a set of large-scale strategic changes that have already been identified. So I don't want to put my thumb on that too much because the problem is, I could have 15 things I want to change, but we don't have the capacity to do all of that at the same time. So I want to make sure that I don't short-circuit the investment people have made just before coming on. Thanks, Matthew, for starting that before I came on. But so So I'm trying very hard not to opine about. I want to make sure I lift up people who are already doing that kind of work, because we have work in process. I don't want to derail that. So hopefully that answers the question. I'm not here to be like, we're going to do it my way. It's like, no, I'm here to help facilitate primarily, and I already see discussions that have started about modernization, and I don't want to put my thumb in it unless I see it derailing. So hopefully that makes sense.
Okay, so I have a question regarding Alaska. Besides the curling and this opportunity to work in this astrophysics field, would you still consider to live there and work for so many years, or only these two factors contributed?
Oh, if it hadn't been for the job, I never would have gone there. I mean, we were looking, like leaving grad school, we were like, well, if we don't do this now, when would we do it? And I'm not risk averse. I think it's very clear that I will seek out adventure when the opportunity arises. So, yeah, there's no way I would have gone because I hate the outdoors, as it turns out. But my wife loves winter, so I went. Yeah, it's just a very different place. There's a lifestyle there where you choose to live in a place with no running water and you have an outhouse. That's a thing. In Fairbanks, that was not my thing, but I knew a lot of people who chose to live the dry cabin lifestyle and run sled dogs. Not my thing, but it was different. I'm shocked we were there as long as we were, to be perfectly honest, because I thought after the academic gigs bounced, my academic gig bounced, I thought we would have ended up moving. But we found a reason to stay. So I would not recommend it unless you really like the outdoors. But remote jobs are easier now, but I think I got lucky in terms of being able to find work that let me still live there, but also get back in the actual software industry. Okay, well, thanks everybody.